to bridge a gap, and the gap that it is bridging is the fact that over 1 million young people enter the labor market annually, and that forms around 12% of that population. And KCB says there is a problem. How do we fix it? Because the government is on, and this is not just a problem in Kenya, but in Africa. But they say our 1 million, we will sort that out. So they are bringing these young people who've gotten out of school, not placed anywhere, and they're giving them skill, taking them to classes and ensuring that they get to have an opportunity to upskill that skill that they already have, or give them an additional skill. And through that, say, matters to do with plumbing, hair, beauty, makeup and whatnot, they go to say, we'll give you this skill that will enable you be an entrepreneur, because KCB is big on ensuring that these young people start businesses that last. And how do they do that? Because they take them through training, give them a mentor, and also go ahead and give them tools of trade that they are able to go and shine. KCB says for you to get this information, you go to KCB Foundation /kcb.com/foundation.
Fantastic.
Yeah, slash Luo in me.
Hey, you people, you have problems. But don't worry. Where you lack an S, there's always like a W. Or an X.
Well, it's not so much where we lack an S. It's we always have the S.
Oh, you put it where it's not supposed to be.
No, it's the H that gives us a bit of a problem.
Oh, it's the H.
Yeah.
Yes. It should be elsewhere.
So like when you say Kinshasa. No. City say Kinshasa?
Kinshasa.
Say it so slowly. Say Seychelles.
Seashells.
You see? So you don't have a problem.
Who says? Do you know the amount of practice that has gone into that?
And you have to actually say it slowly.
You have to think it.
Okay. So waiting for a member of parliament this morning, but in line with what he's probably going to discuss with us, there's a story that's carried in the Standard today. Fuming Ruto breaks the silence and turns up the heat on his critics. And he says, I've been keeping quiet all this time because I've been listening to you. People have been drawing me, you've been putting me in a coffin, you've been saying I'm what. Achani Kwambeas, let me tell you, I don't have time for your rubbish, essentially, is what he's saying. President Ruto is an angry man and has recently shown a more combative side. His frustration is evident in the tone of his public speeches, choice of words, and the target of his criticism, suggesting his patience with critics has worn thin. When you guys started doing this thing, I just said, okay, you know what? You have your rights. You can do whatever. But now it's all indicative of the possibility that, I'm kind of getting tired of this thing that you guys are doing. And I'm not going to keep quiet anymore. The head of state has been responding sharply to critics accusing them, or rather, that have been accusing him of engaging in early campaigns and quoting his administration's performance. Although 3 months have passed since Ruto's deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, was impeached, a move Ruto did not publicly comment on this week marked a notable shift. During a week-long tour of Western Kenya, Ruto launched a scathing attack on Gachagua, branding him incompetent, corrupt, and a tribalist. Where? Wow. I'm telling you. Other leaders accompanying the president joined in delivering similarly pointed critiques against the former deputy president in what appeared to be a coordinated effort. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Last weekend, Gachagua accused Ruto of being domineering, alleging that the president scripted public speeches for leaders and later weaponized those same remarks against them. However, Gachagua is not Ruto's only target. Wiper Democratic Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka also faced the president's ire for claiming that Ruto's development tours are thinly disguised early campaign efforts. So speaking in Busia, Ruto dismissed these allegations and said, these people are saying we have started early campaigns. Stop diarrheaing, he said. Once we start proper campaigns, you will flee in panic. Tell them we are just planning development projects. This is not campaign. You think this campaign, I know already you're getting uncomfortable. Wait for the campaign to come. He took issue with Kalonzo for questioning the 150 million shilling bonus to farmers of sugarcane, accusing them of hypocrisy for not raising similar concerns when tea or coffee farmers are paid their bonuses. So for everything that has come at him in the last couple of weeks, the president is answering all of them one by one. He said, you people drew me. You people have said I'm a what? Ukiniachia ntawamaliza by, Asubuhi na mapema.
The
These are the
thing is-
things that we're hearing him say. Would this all point to the president being angry? Or is he saying, yes, freedom of speech is a right to everybody, but you guys are pushing the envelope? No?
You know something? When we talk about fundamental freedoms we have in this country, the president also has those freedoms.
Yeah.
Okay. So if people feel they have a right to criticize the president has a right to respond.
Do you then label him as angry because he's responding to something that somebody may have said? Would you now then take that label and say, okay, so people have been talking for the longest time, he's responded, and we know that you have a right of reply to whatever. But then also the position in which you sit in demands a certain level from you. Really, it does.
A certain
However,
level of decorum.
Decorum.
Right? It demands that. Just the position demands that.
It does. But also, remember, this job of being president, from what I can see, is not very easy. Even those who get there and realize this thing that I wanted is not quite what I thought. Because you are balancing so many balls in the air.
At the same time.
Yes. And when people respond, and if indeed those who say he's responding angrily are right, what is it that angers people?
Yeah. Why are you angry?
If you feel someone is saying things about you which are true and you don't want to hear, you may be angry. If you feel someone is saying something which is not true about you, you'll be angry. If you hear this, either of these consistently, you will get peeved. It is the human thing to get peeved.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out as though we have a president who does not want to be questioned. You're questioning me as who and why. I am the president. I know it all. It comes out like that because for a very long time, I mean, when the young people have been talking, parents, you need to talk to your children. They have bad manners. When leaders are questioning, you're talking to me as who?
I think there failed to be a realization of the fact that things like citizen-centered governance and community contribution to how people are led is not static. That you cannot expect that maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when you saw the people visibly subservient to the one who is in authority, i.e. the president, to think that when you have a greater expanded educated lot,
Population, yeah.
that they were going to keep quiet. I think there's a fundamental mistake you make in that assumption. That people are not just sitting around waiting for you to tell them what to do, how you're going to do it, and that if you've gone off the line, that people are going to keep quiet. That kind of behavior is not static. It is organic, it moves, it shifts over time. So in as much as one wants to be a leader of a nation or leader of a particular area, you must also realize that as time has gone and as things have changed, people will no longer sit back and watch when they see something going wrong. Now, I see the uncomfortability coming about that you have not realized, wait a minute, I'm not just going to be able to do what I want when I'm here. And then that people call you out on it is when you're like, oh, hang on a minute. This is not what other people, because other leaders, you don't speak where they are.
Not only that, there are people who keep telling you the complete opposite.
Exactly. Yes. There are people that have surrounded you who are telling you, no.
Yes. And that is
everything
often
is
the
okay
case with leadership. Not African leadership, not Kenyan leadership. There are people who will tell you what they think you need to hear. And usually it is something that has their interests at heart, not yours.
It touches on them directly.
Yes, because the impatience with a simple difference of opinion. Look at the political leadership in this country. Since this is where we live, this is where we are from.
Yes.
The impatience is actually widespread. It's just we don't get to hear others. Anyone who considers themselves to be a leader is very thin when it comes to accepting criticism.
And
they're very thin on it.
The offices that they host or that they hold are those offices that attract criticism left, right, center, whether you like it or not.
Criticism goes with the job.
Goes with the job.
Yes.
And when they seem not to want criticism, why are they in those offices to start with?
It tells you what they think and what they believe the positions are meant to be and how it is you are supposed to relate to them. They have this prescribed idea in their heads of how it is people ought to relate how people ought to speak. And why? Because there are people around him who behave exactly in that prescribed manner. So when you behave that way, what on earth is wrong with this person?
Yeah.
Why are they different? Do you really think if those who are close to any political leadership told them the truth as it was, they would not be as impatient as they are? They'd realize, hey, I've heard this before. They don't hear it often enough.
But you also must realize that the folks that surround the leader are not singing this song from the rafters because they believe it. They are doing it and they're offering that support for personal gain. Because you cannot convince me that you can see things going wrong as a human being with eyes and ears, that you can see things going wrong, but you want to say that actually, you know what, everything is all right. There's a problem, a fundamental one there.
Is it a question of, because you call them sing-song leaders, yeah? Sing-song advisors surrounding the president who are not telling him the truth. But doesn't the president himself just listen to what Kenyans are saying?
You know, there's something in music that there's a choir, there's a let's not even say choir, there's a band. Okay? They're the woodwind instruments, they're the brass instruments, they're the string, they're the percussion.
Yes.
Right? Everybody is playing, but there is one person, and it's very possible that that person leads a segment, and that's where the thought of tone deafness comes from, because there is a tone that is set by the band, and everybody's playing that. If you opened your ears or listened above the noise, you will hear the tone. So tone deaf comes from everybody is playing in concert, but you cannot hear the tone. So you start to conduct in a different manner. That's where it comes from.
Which I would therefore say that our leaders know what is going wrong. They just choose not to do anything about it.
You know, there's a word that often creeps into our conversation. It's called impunity. There are things that people do because they understand they can get away with it. And this is something, if you have a child, observe a child and look at how a child learns to push limits. Just observe.
Yeah.
If there is no response to what they're doing, they'll continue.
Yes.
When you put a halt to it, then they will know.
In some cases, it's a look. In some cases, it's a word. In other cases, it's an action.
For children, usually the look is the mother. Our mother will just give you one look. That look will say so many things. You will have understood what
Tail
you
between
need
the
to
legs
do,
and you crawl
what
back.
you don't need to do. Yes. And whatever you need to stop, you'll stop.
This all sets the conversation, and now we are happy that Peter Salasya is here with us. Member of Parliament for Mumias East is our guest this morning. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning too. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very fine.
We waited for you for some minutes.
And we are happy you have come.
Yeah, the jam was a bit, but we have finally arrived. Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We know that you've had busy times recently, but welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room. We're glad to have you here, and we can even take a moment and welcome you. We normally have a proverb that we share every morning. You've been here before, so you know what that's like. Yeah. So let's CT share that with you, and then you can tell us what you think about it.
Okay.
Sawa sawa.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week ending today have been from the Republic of Rwanda. Okay, now let me see what the proverb says today. Rwanda is a landlocked country, really interesting country with many unique things, many unique things. I'm going to paraphrase it. Caution is not cowardice. Put it simply. Caution is what? Not cowardice. Yes.
What do you think of that, Mheshimiwa?
In reference to
anything.
Okay. As you've just said, a lot is happening in this nation, and maybe we can just maybe take an example of what maybe happened during the tour of the president when he came to to Western, more so to be specific, Mumias. When you try to bring some caution on what exactly is happening, but you realize that after he talked about it, then you come and there was intimidation and tells you that you only have experience of 2 years in politics or 3 years. So there's nothing you know about politics. And then I really wonder that indeed it's true that they cannot listen when we are trying to raise key issues that are affecting Kenyans. That needs to be heard. Yeah, and I raised very important questions regarding the bonus thing.
Yes.
I raised important thing about the SHA thing. I raised thing to do with the house levy.
Yes.
And you look at the response and then say that and I even asked the president that I'm willing to be his advisor so that I can streamline and be telling him the truth. I can be also another truthful man in this government.
It's true.
So that he have a second ear.
Yeah.
And being a genuine person, I couldn't, because that was the first time, I think, first time since he came into power, to be told in front of when he's seated that this is what exactly happening.
So you were actually giving caution.
Yes.
And even not just in Huisero, this and Kakamega and western part of the country, not just this week, but even before. And I think it's great because it seems like you have this exact proverb is what you've been saying over the last couple of weeks, where you said, if you're not careful now, you will lose support. If you don't act, if you don't take caution, you will lose support. You've said that a number of times. What do you mean?
Okay, I mean, there is a lot that has happened. And you see, when people try to say that you started the early campaigns, you know, first of all, you remember we only have like about 29 months to the election. We only have 29 months to the election. That means that in the next 20 months, or maybe like 15 months, we'll be on a serious campaign trail, like, for example. But now, on what basis are you going to campaign? Because there must be something that you're going to speak about, that this is what I've done. And look at this scenario. We are trying to look at, let me just look at his tour that maybe he came to the western parts of Kenya. You realize that it was merely politics. Because number one, let's look at Kakamega in general. We have 12 constituencies that were there. You remember he was there to be there like in a week. And look at, he was maybe in Mumias. In Mumias, we talked about bringing the bonus. You look at, I asked about the thesis of this bonus you're talking about. The bonus is saying that these are the bonus to come to the farmers. Then I raised a question like, if you're talking about bonus, what about the Butali sugar farmers? They're also farmers. You also need to give them bonus if indeed you are talking about the real issues. If you are talking about the bonus, what about the West Kenya? There are also the farmers there. Then Zoya Sugar, the other sugar millers. But to come and pickpocket a naked man is like doing disservice to them. Because what are the bonus? They are realized from the profits. This is a company that is under receivership, and we know what is the receivership. There is an act that guides a company that is under receivership. There is what we call the Bankruptcy Act. When the company goes under receivership, these are employees who are supposed to be paid and wherever. But you can't just wake up today and say that I want this 30% to go to this person. There is somebody that you are, and what about even in the accounting? There is what we call the consistency. There is what you call the trial and error. So it should never be done on that company because we don't want to go back to where we are. What about next year? What if they don't give those bonuses that they are giving? And in fact, you'll find like they are starting to ignite maybe farmers. That is number one. Number two, when I raised the issue about the SHA thing, I asked the question, like, for example, you have come up with this SHA. This SHA, you never involve the stakeholders in the first place. Because if you really that you want to to revolutionize or maybe to bring drastic changes in the healthcare system,
Yes.
you have to involve the stakeholders. And who are the main stakeholders? The private hospitals. The private hospitals, the main stakeholder, because the public hospitals do not have those enough equipment to address the healthcare issues, challenges in this country. Then now you are telling that this one is to bring more money to the public hospital. Take a good example. Your SHA that is talking about is only giving there's that the ICU. Maybe for those who have experience or have gone there, 4,500 a day, which ICU will offer that, hospital will offer that one. That's just, and then you're talking about people to register free. Is it a pyramid scheme that we are trying? Because the insurance is a pool that we should be pooling resources from here and here, and then we take a risk, and that is what we call the risk management. But now you are telling people to go and bring this money. In fact, when they were trying to bring about the healthcare system, it is something that no one should try to tamper with it at any given point. And people had understood the concept of NHIF, and no one was complaining about it. But just because of some few interests you come with it, even the ministry itself doesn't understand the concept. I remember even when we were going, members were going after passing the legislation or the act on the on the new SHA, whatever. Then they were also called again to be trained how that the SHA is going to work. So no one else understands about.
Mheshimiwa, I have to ask you this:
Yes.
Are we saying that, as a member of Parliament, with all the trainings that you people underwent, that Parliament as a body doesn't quite understand what this whole new scheme is about?
Maybe I refuse to go and attend that meeting to be trained how the SHA is operating.
Why?
Because you see, you pass this thing. They were running it with it all over. Pass it. Then they passed it, by the way. Because now you see...
Are you not among the people who passed it?
Now you see there is what you call the simple majority, and you know the parliament is not independent. And look at what is happening today, like the tour the president is having. Parliament ought to be an independent body.
Yes.
But you see the Speaker of the National Assembly, that now is the one now talking about the government. If you speak, like when I try to speak about the SHA, he says that I should not talk about the SHA because I'm not eligible to use the SHA. Because we also have other policies that we use. Now, me as a person, as a citizen, I pay the SHA.
Yeah.
SHA is about 27,000 or 30,000 being deducted. So I should also be concerned to know this money that is taken away from me. How is it going to be spent?
No, you are very right, because you represent a constituency.
Yes.
And your constituents also pay.
No,
So you have every right to question and to ask about it.
Yes.
Because when your constituents have a problem with that particular system, they'll come to you.
They'll definitely. And then you ask again. I raised this question. When you are now telling people to do a registration, and it's free, definitely.
Yes.
They are saying it's free. Even other member, when we had another member say that you pay 300, so there's no any clear.
There's no consistency.
Consistency in messaging, whatever they are talking about. And then we asked, when you're putting off this NHIF, they didn't have a transition process. It's just like when the national government was being transitioned to the vote functions, there was a transition commission that were not to let any gap in between. So they were not to allow people, they could have allowed people to start registering if there was to do some amendments. But now, they didn't even tell the members that out of this money, this is the amount that NHIF had. Like maybe the audited accounts of the NHIF. Now they are saying that they do not have the money for the chronic disease, is when now they want to pass into the supplementary and whatever. So you find like they don't understand. Then I raised also another question before the president. I asked him about this issue because of not involving the stakeholders, like the new model funding. When we raise issues that this model funding is going, it is not attainable. It's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
It can't work because they are talking about the bundles. Look at this scenario. You are saying that this person, because he has these vehicles, he has this. Look at the trend, the behavior of Kenyans. Kenyans, there are very few Kenyans who save for their children. If someone dies, then he dies with everything. You see. Now you are saying that this person, because the father has the vehicle, has give the land. What about next time they come and auction him, and maybe you have put that person on another bundle
because of that? Okay.
Because of what they own.
Or whatever they own. So you find like it doesn't work. And I even asked myself, if we have the public university, we have the private university, let us remove support. Let us take the private universities, be private. Let them remain for the rich kids who wants to be there. Let the ones of the public remain for those who are interested to be in the public hospital. Now you want to remove the help. Even the president himself was supported by help.
Okay. Mweshima, let's take a break on this one, because I mean you've listed a number of things that form the basis for, I think, some of the sentiments that you've made recently to say, you know what, Mr. President, it stops with you. You should be able to sort out some of these issues. And we're going to look into then, okay, so as you've talked about them, what's to be done? Or who's to say what should be done and where it should be done? It's the Mumias East Member of Parliament, Peter Salasya, who's in the hot seat this morning, and we're asking some questions. He said, you know what? If you intend to keep support, you need to act now, because too many things are going wrong at the same time. It is 25 minutes to 8 o'clock. Conversation continues after this.
Are you ready to become the...
Is Mumias East Member of Parliament, and he's here with us this morning. And coming off what he's said collectively over the last couple of weeks, act or lose support.
Yeah, and act or lose support. Mweshima, I'll just take you through what has been happening for the past few days. And this is pretty much what you've been telling the president, that the projects that have been launched by the president are not working. There hasn't been stakeholder engagement. Public participation has not taken place. Kenyans are speaking, but the president is not listening to them. And matters to do with bonuses. I'll ask a question. Is Mumias working? Is it crushing King?
Yes, definitely it's doing.
Is it making profits?
Now that is the point.
Yes, and on that bonuses, did the bonuses come from Mumias or the exchequer? And if it's from the exchequer, how did that come in? Because it was never budgeted for. That is the question that you asked. Also, NSSF is not working. It should be disbanded, because it has not helped anyone. And finally, you concluded by saying, nitakuunga mkono ukitoa hizi vitu zote. That means there is an action that you're looking forward to the president to take in order for you to give him your support. What are these issues that is making you and the president not sit on the same table because you are aggrieved by what he's doing?
First of all, let's look at this issue. Yesterday I was having a friend of mine. He works from an organization, and I tried to look at his payslip. And even also he was earning about, like, let's say, for example, $1 million amount, like, for example. Then this gentleman was trying to complain and say that, you look at this is my face, my payslip. He's like saying that, and we were trying to look at it. He's being charged NSSF, and again they are saying that they are going to increase the money from, I don't know, to 4,000 and something. There is what you call the SHA thing. There is that pay thing. There is also called undisclosed, whatever. It's a good amount.
Yes.
So you realize that this thing is happening, but at the end of the day, there are so many cuts in the payslip, but there is nothing that we can feel. You know, if your payslip is being cut on, and he was saying even for the last 10 years that he has been working since 2014.
Yeah.
His payslip has been increasing about 10,000. But for the first time, his payslip has dropped, has shrink. Looking at also at the inflation that we are also in, things that are moving up. That's just one thing. And I raise issues that if you want to get the support of the civil servant. Look at, because you are not increasing their salaries, but you are only
Deducting.
deducting and deducting without putting, also looking at other parameters like inflation and other things. When you look at, they talk about the inflation that it has come down. You ask yourself, they talk about the affordable housing. This affordable housing, people who have been building. There are those companies doing affordable housing and whatever. But now they are coming and saying that the house levy. I asked them a question. This is a teacher from Mushago, lives in the village. You are deducting this person with the house levy. We are in a capitalism country whereby every person wakes up at 4 to go and work and must also enjoy his sweat of working. So you are deducting that person. This person is asking himself, will he ever get a house? So those are questions that needs to be addressed. And I say that if you don't remove this thing, you are going to lose all a civil servant, not even the civil servant, even those who are in the private sector. You are losing. It's about 2 million votes.
Yeah.
You deduct from whatever you got from 8 million. You are remaining with 6 million. 6 million you remove from maybe Mount Kenya. So I say that if you are now maybe to salvage yourself, bring back, have mercy. And remember these people who are on the pay slip. Then another thing that we also try to explain, like NSSF. And I didn't know that the people who sit on the NSSF were there. And they say that whatever the NSSF has never, we don't have a story from somebody saying that I've seen so many retirees in my constituencies and everywhere. No one has ever, even if it means 30,000 or 5,000, but they keep on deducting this money. And let me tell you, by the way, if you are an employee in this nation, in this country, and you just delay to submit to remit, like even with the members of parliament, we have what you call the staff work under us.
Yeah.
If you just fail to submit the NSSF money, even within 1 day, you are going to be penalized. You're going to pay double. If you have been paying like NSSF maybe 60,000, you're going to be forced to pay 120,000.
Salasya,
I'm looking at these things that you're saying, and I think they're clear. I don't think anybody can fault that these are real life situations, right? In the recent past, just recently, even up until 2 days ago, right in Western, the president has been complaining about critics, saying that, you people are criticizing me for things that we are doing when we're supposed to be working on development. Now take those two scenarios. Here's Peter Salasya saying, come on, guys, the things that you've put into place, whether it is SHA, whether it is housing, whether it is education, whatever it is, there's something wrong. But you're basically saying, fix this thing or you're going to lose support. These are fundamental issues that are affecting Kenyans. You need to fix it. Do you think you're criticizing the president?
We're just giving some cautions. And I want to give a very good scenario. I was in Morocco, by the way. They're doing what you call the affordable housing. And with this affordable housing, you look at what they here in Kenya they're doing, it's totally different. It's just like infringement of someone's right. In Morocco, when we was there, they have done so amazing in terms of, and they don't force their citizens to pay their money. Like they introduce the new homes. For example, if that could be the concept of the housing model or maybe whatever. They like, let's say like Kansas City, they go and build the schools, they build hospitals, and then they bring the road networks, and then they look for the private investors. They give these private investors like 500 units of the houses, and these 500 units, they say that you will not pay maybe VAT. The corporate tax, and then there's some other taxes. Then it makes these people to build at cheaper price. You find like you build, then now the government will only be like a guarantor. Then now you, like the unit that they agreed is 400,000. 400,000 now you start paying when you are living in that house. But in this scenario, like in Kenya, it's so pathetic. Now, coming to your point, what we're not trying to criticize the government. We are only trying to give them, open their minds and their ideas. Because I believe there is someone who lied to the president and said that you have to fix this country. There is somebody who lied to him that you are the only person, you're the only messiah who is going to fix this country, and everything must be done like right now.
Salasya, there's what you're saying. There's a problem, we need to fix it. And even if it's criticism is welcomed. It's what we ought to do, criticize where wrong is being done by Kenyans, to Kenyans. And as we speak right now, there is the other aspect of solutions. The president should listen to what is being said. It is not only Salasya who's speaking. Kenyans are speaking out here. Guys have gone to the streets to complain about the very same things you're complaining about. But question is, do you think we have a listening president?
We don't have a listening president. If he can, and I just said in my opening remarks, if he could just criticize me that I'm very junior to advise him, then what about those people whom he sits together with in the boardroom to tell him issues? Look at the executive order of what have just happened in the health, with the CS of health, when she tried to sack. It's called the Mulu or somebody of the sort. Then you want to sack the some changes that wanted to do in the ministry. Only the PSA that this mandate is for me. So the CSS that have been brought to fix this country, the powers have been removed from them.
Okay.
It is now gone back to the PS. Now, how are we even sure that the broad-based government is going to work? PS are very useless. No, I'm not saying, they have no powers at all. Coming to the point, you asked me a question, like, for example, about the bonus that we were talking about. I raised that question. Then the question was, that money came from the investor. And I answered that question that we must live by the rule of law, by the constitution. And there is a constitution that has explains well the Bankruptcy Act of 2013.
Yes.
That explain how a company under receivership should run. You should not be dictated and be told like this money that you have made. Like, for example, they were forcing the investor, that money came from the investor, the money that the private investor was paying to the Kenya Commercial Bank. So it was not from the exchequer. And that's why you see that they were talking about bonus. They were unable to give it to the farmers like the Butali sugar farmers. They were unable to give to the farmers like West Kenya, Mroni, Zoya, and everywhere. So it was just a political game to try to play with the minds of the people. But it's something that if it doesn't well be handled, it can ignite farmers against the miller. If what happens next year, they doesn't give that money to the farmers, they will say now, you see, they have started again playing with our minds. So I think, and that's why I say that there was no consultation about most of the government. That's why they have failed in everything.
Salasya, as a member of parliament, one would say that parliament is an independent institution where you're supposed to check on the excesses of the executive. But there's a feeling out here that parliament has reduced itself, ceded its own power, and has become a rubber stamp of what the executive want. Even as you criticize the president out here, that ought to go back to the National Assembly and check the excesses and make sure that everything is being done by the law. Why is it that it seems as though it is the very same parliament that is letting down Kenyans?
Yeah, I think Kenyans are walking in a difficult journey, and we can say it from look even what has happened with judiciary when they are removing their security and everything, and look at today. And even I just said, this is the first parliament that we are experiencing today that people were shot at the gates of the parliament. Right? It's so in the history, in the Kenyan history.
Yeah.
And this was not, then there is what you call the ranking members. They call the ranking members. That even with the people who can speak out, they cannot give you the microphone, the mic to speak. They will give you, you get there, you key in, then they'll just look at you, but someone even has not keyed in just because he's a ranking member. They actually has been there for some time. They give him opportunity to speak. Anyway, that is another story. But the question is, the parliament fails because you see, everywhere that the president goes, the Speaker of the National Assembly is always there. Is now again telling, like I remember he was in Mount Elgon, he's saying that members of parliament should not ask development from on platform here because they know they're the ones making the budget. They're making the budget. The question comes like this. These budgets come from the executive. They are drawn from the executive. There is what you call the budget estimates. He should ask himself, who prepares these budget estimates? And because now this budget, they come in estimated. Now, with the kind of the parliament that we have, there is nothing they can object. So you are saying that ati bunge nyinyi ndio mnatengeneza budget, and he has failed to remind himself that the ministry and which gets from the executive. Look at what has happened last week. They want to do away with some of the bodies. That
parastatals. Yes. To either the parastatals to collapse.
Yes. Did we have, for example, the public participation? Did we have the public participation for this? Because every parastatal has its role.
And that's the thing, Salasya, that we here ask ourselves questions, because these questions that we ask, these things that are being agitated for, there is an entire body of over 300 men and women strong whose job it is to check some of these things. But where do we hear it? We hear it outside of parliament. I know you talk about, the simple majority essentially takes the day, right? But then we are at, I think Kenya is at risk here. When you talk about a parliament, essentially, that goes along with what the president says or what the executive says.
And then they blame the president.
And then you say, okay, well, he needs to check on certain things. He needs to fix it, otherwise he'll lose support. If you ask me, the toolbox is right in parliament. What if at parliament stage, all parliamentarians decide, no, this is the right thing to do. This is how we shall legislate. This is how we shall oversight. This is how we shall budget. What if at parliament those things are done? Because what we see now is that parliament is a very scared lot. And scared, I mean scared to actually stand up and represent in the manner in which they should.
I think if there is a place where we need to have a constitution amendments, because you see, I look at the way the US, the systems are working. So when we are doing, let us look at some of the loopholes in the parliament that makes parliament not to be independent. And this animal called the Political Parties Act in the parliament. You see the reason where the president is, there is majority leader. What is the work of the majority leader? Is to whip the members and say that this is our position as a party. Look at before the broad-based, the ODM has been doing oversight, but over the night is now singing the song of the government of the day, whether it's wrong or right. It is yes. Now the parliament is at ransom. That's why we say that we must also look at two things going forward. Today, there was a time I was in a committee just because at one point I was seen with Oscar Sudi, a friend, before, it was just a friend. Next day I was removed from the committee with ODM.
Yes, no.
Just because I was working with this person. Now they are there. Now, the same scenario. if they find like you have not spoken well, look at what the Boni Khalwale tried just to ask about the principles behind the merger of NC. He was told that wewe uko kwa serikali, right? Uko kwa serikali, unatumia pesa ya serikali ya kwa GK ya serikali, unatumia nini?
You dare not ask questions.
Yeah? You have no right to ask about anything about to correct the government.
But is that statement really true? Because Honorable Boni Khalwale is a senator. He was elected.
Yes.
Yes. And he's a parliamentarian.
Yes.
He is not, he's in government in the broad sense of the word. We are all in government. But he is an institution that forms the government, but it's an independent institution. Just like the judiciary, just like the executive. So really, when we hear it being said, because this one everybody heard, that you are in the government, is that really true? Is he really in government? Is it because is it deputy chief whip or something?
Yes, that is what now happens. And I think we need to do the amendments in the constitution about the parliament. Political parties should not have a way, any way, in managing the affairs of the members once they get elected or once in the parliament. Because
that won't happen.
That
won't happen. The reason why you have the position of a whip, the way these things work in politics, the whip's job is to move. That's why it's called a whip. Is to congregate people towards a particular position that they want taken. The opposition also are supposed to have somebody who does that. That's their job, to marshal people, to bring them together. It is a process that every democratic nation has. There are people whose job it is to do that. What makes ours strange is that you have difficulties distinguishing.
Yes.
Because we have a presidential system, not a parliamentary one. And because we do, rightfully, we don't have an opposition. We have a majority and a minority. But the role of oversight is to all parliamentarians.
Parliament, yes.
Whether you are in the party that won the election or not, that is your job. Because that is the role of oversight for the benefit of those who elected you.
And as well as even as you talk about it, there is the aspect of Parliament as a whole and the leader of Parliament, who is the Speaker, who appears to be in bed with government. That as well is something to look up to in terms of the independence of Parliament, starting from the top.
Will you keep pushing? And those are questions that we need to ask. That will you, even if you can't do it within the walls of Parliament, where will you keep pushing for some of these changes to occur?
And I think those we will use the outside platform to address them and even to shame them. And you see now today, as you have just said, there is what you call the committees. Committees. If you try to go against, they will remove you from the committee, and that is what now the biggest worry to the most of the members of Parliament. So going forward, I think maybe when we go back, I think we were next week, we're going to have the Kamkunji for the members of Parliament.
Yes.
And and I will try my level best to get a chance to speak, that to relook ourselves as members of Parliament, what we have been able to do. Have we been able to put this government to checks and balances so that we should not be just an extended hand of an executive?
Exactly.
We are a big letdown. Look at the finance bill is coming. Kenyans are saying that no, we don't want this thing. It's not good for us. We are to the end. We have been pushed to the wall. We can't breathe. But the parliament is saying that we have to pass this thing, whether you like it or not. And we are the people's representative.
Exactly. And
So-
those are the cries for Kenyans,
Yeah.
that it must continue. I mean, and sadly, our time here has come to an end, but it would be nice to continue talking to you, talking with you, having these conversations with you and others who would then be able to continue to push the people's agenda. Mumias East Town MP has been our guest this hour. Peter Salasya, thank you for being here. The conversations must continue. It's 8:01.